Hello everyone, it's your Peacekeeper. Welcome back to the Gaming Lounge. It is time for the next video in our How to Play series on the Russian cruiser line. This is the Tier 4 Svietlana class of cruisers. The Svietlana class cruiser was supposed to be the first cruiser built for the Russian Navy. The Russian Revolution, the Russian Civil War, and World War I would mean that only one of the four planned ships would actually be complete, and that was Svietlana, which was renamed to Profintern, and then later to Krasny Krim. The Svietlana class was intended to be a light scout class of ships designed to lead a flotilla of destroyers and scout ahead of the fleet, much similar to the U.S. Omaha class of light cruisers. Tied to this role as a scout ship was the need to have a top speed of roughly 30 knots and to be armed with at least 12 130mm guns. Propulsion was provided by 13 Yarrow-style boilers burning oil, providing steam to 4 geared steam turbines. Total shaft power was about 50,000 shaft horsepower. In terms of service history, Svietlana and the 3 other ships under construction were evacuated to Petrograd due to German advances in 1917. Completed and commissioned in 1928, Svietlana was renamed to Profintern and stationed in the Black Seas Fleet. In the late 1930s, she was rearmed and upgraded with additional anti-aircraft capabilities as well as additional armor. The ship was renamed to Krasny Krim and thus ends the history that we're going to actually cover, since Krasny Krim is in the game and will hopefully someday have its own premium ship review. So we'll cover the history of Krasny Krim then. In terms of in-game play style, Svietlana is exactly like all the other Russian cruisers have been up to this point. Long range, fast, maneuverable. These ships focus primarily on the longer range engagements, starting fires with the occasional bout of, up close and personal torpedo action. We'll get to see a lot of that actually in the battle video. Even without having a really high point captain on this ship, the ship has shown itself to be quite strong and capable, provided that you can use island cover to actually get to places to use her to her maximum. And once you get there, man, it can be an absolute riot. Unlike all other light cruisers armed with fairly light guns, damage output on a per salvo basis is pretty low. However, the ability to start fires is quite high. Rate of fire is reasonable. Torpedo range is reasonable, but the speed and maneuverability of the ship is quite good. So using those to your advantages are fantastic. One other interesting thing to note is that as far as cruisers go, Svietlana actually has a fairly decent chunk of belt armor to work with. If it wasn't for the fact that at Tier 4 the battleships all have absolutely terrible accuracy, I would say that you could probably even bounce a fair number of shells with this. The problem is, of course, this giant 10mm plating thickness for up here, and this means you are going to eat some normal penetrating hits from up top. The other downside to the ship is if you expose too much of a broadside, your 75mm belt armor above the waterline is actually part of your citadel. And it sits above the water, which means that if you are sitting broadside, you can be removed from the match with great prejudice. So I highly recommend keeping this ship constantly maneuvering, WASD hacks, and full engagement here. Otherwise, it's going to be a rough grind. But this ship does have a lot of potential, and like I said, we're going to cover a little bit more of that in the battle video. In terms of upgrades, I'm running, we only have 2 options. I'm running 2 specific ones for very specific reasons. The first one is Main Armaments Mod 1, which is going to reduce the chance of your main battery being incapacitated by 20%. It also does the same thing for your torpedo tubes. It does increase the hit point pool of your main battery and torpedo tubes by 50%. It also decreases the time it takes to repair them if they do get incapacitated by 20%. As far as other options at this tier, well, we don't have any secondary batteries and we don't have any anti-aircraft guns really worth keeping around. So Auxiliary Armaments Mod 1 really isn't all that useful to us. The 976.2mm Lender gun is not exactly an AA powerhouse, so we don't really need to worry about keeping them alive. In terms of detonations, detonations are possible on the lower tier cruisers Similar to destroyers, however, what I've found is that there just isn't enough detonations on board most cruisers to really worry about running Magazine Mod 1 to try and reduce that. Magazine Mod 1, I see this as primarily geared towards, you know, the destroyers out there. They seem to do much better with it, but as far as cruisers are concerned, it's really not worth it. So Main Armaments Mod 1 is what I'm choosing. In the second slot, I'm choosing Propulsion Mod 1, which is going to reduce the risk of your engine being incapacitated by 20%, as well as decrease the time it takes to repair your engines by an additional 20%. Steering Gears Mod 1 is the same as Propulsion Mod 1, but for your steering gears. And the choice between these two, you know, it's entirely up to you guys. Personally, I hate losing my engine more than I hate losing my rudder. At least when I, you know, lose my rudder, I can still navigate myself into a defensive position, and, you know, hopefully it's not too much of an issue. I can use the engine to vary, you know, the angle of my ship to try and mitigate damage as much as possible. But if I lose my engine, I'm kind of stuck wherever I run out of energy at if I don't have my damage control party up. So that's why I run Propulsion Mod 1. As far as Damage Control Systems Mod 1 is concerned, you know, this ship isn't really intended to be the primary focus of fire. So, you know, if you get hit by a torpedo, if you get started on fire, you know, you should have a damage control party up to use to repair those. If not, you know, it's probably not going to matter too much. Cruisers, generally speaking, have a lower fire burn time, and as a result, they take less damage from fire to begin with. And so reducing your chance of starting on fire really isn't that important of an upgrade to me. So I recommend running Propulsion Mod 1. In terms of consumables, we do get access to hydroacoustic search. This is a pretty basic hydroacoustic search. 3.48 kilometer detection range of ships, 2.5 kilometer detection range on the torpedoes. So new consumable to work with. All right, let's talk about some stats, and then we will go right on into the battle video. In terms of stats, Svietlana has 24,600 hit points, up to 125 millimeters of armor. The main battery consists of 15 130 millimeter 55 caliber Model 1913 guns. They have an 11.3 kilometer range, 10-second reload time, 111 meter dispersion. HE shell damage is going to be 1900. That's with the full-on Citadel with HE, which at this tier is surprisingly can be done on certain ships. 10% fire starting chance, though. That's pretty good. AP shell damage, 2500 with the Citadel hit. And, you know, both of them have the same muzzle velocity, so we don't have too much to worry about there. 180-degree turn time is also reasonably quick at 18.9 seconds. I didn't feel like I was lacking in the turret rotation department. I wasn't waiting for my guns to get on target very often, and usually it was because I had transitioned to the other side of the ship, and then we have the front turret that we had to wait for. But torpedo tubes, we have 4 triple 450mm tubes. They have a 5-kilometer range, 52 knots, 7,233 damage, and they have a reload time of just 39 seconds. 0.8 kilometer detection range by sea. These are actually fairly easy to use at the low tiers. They get a little bit long in the tooth as we start working our way up the tiers, but as far as these torpedoes are concerned, they don't do the most damage, but they are fantastic at lopping off chunks of damage, which is something that the ship severely lacks the ability to do, which is that raw alpha strike. The ship is more of the damage over time style of ship play, and that can be a little frustrating if you're not used to it, which is part of the reason why I don't recommend this line for most players to start off with. In aircraft defense, you know, we've got 9 of these, they're basically 3-inch guns. They do a total of 14 DPS at 3 kilometers. You're not shooting down much with those AA guns. Max speed 29 knots, turning circle radius 590 meters, 7.2 second rudder shift time. Detection range by sea of 9.6 kilometers, detection range by air of 6 kilometers. Not exactly the stealthiest ship in the world, but at these tiers it really doesn't matter. We don't have a whole lot more range to work with anyway, so it's not like being stealthier is really going to help us out in any foreseeable manner. So that's enough to talk about the ship in port. Let's go look at it in a battle video. Alright, so Svietlana's Again, we're looking to play Svietlana at range. We're not looking to do a whole lot of brawling unless we can get islands to mask our approach somewhat. We are in a Tier 3, Tier 4 fight. That makes us top tier. You will occasionally get in a 4-5 fight with this ship, but you won't see anything higher than 5 thanks to the restrictive matchmaking. And as a result of that, you can do quite a lot with this ship. It's fairly well balanced in its capabilities between its fragile nature and the ability for it to do damage. So, with that in mind, the map is Archipelago, I believe is the name of the map. And, well, there's not really a whole lot of tactics that go on this map. You just kind of work with what you got, I guess. In our case, you know, we've spawned here in the south. We're gonna head, if I remember correctly, we're gonna head pretty much straight ahead. You can see this thing is just littered with guns. I mean, it's just insane how many guns are on board this ship, and it's quite crazy. Quite crazy. Just how many guns are on board. And you know, you can use these guns. They've got pretty good arcs all the way out to their max range. You know, I'm sure with a full-fledged, if you wanted to be full-on Seal Clubber, Svietlana's gun configuration is, you know, quite affable to that. Like, you can definitely do some work with them. There's the horn for you guys. You can definitely do some work with this ship. You know, I could imagine with advanced firing training and basic firing training, and maybe even IFHE on this captain, if you had points just to burn, it could be a lot of fun to play this ship. You'd have a lot more range than I think a lot of cruisers would at this tier, plus a pretty good rate of fire. I could see that being a lot of fun. I'm not big on putting high point captains in low tier ships unless it's a premium ship, which doesn't cost me anything to put that point captain there. I think I'd much rather have my high point captains for up top. We're not gonna worry about that too much because in these videos you get to see them roughly at about the same point you are. This captain only has 6 captain points on him, so don't have to worry about, you know, there being a you know, unfair advantage due to having a high point captain. So, all right, so we actually did end up going to the south, and we've got some work that we can do. We've got ourselves an enemy Svietlana. We've got Clemson's to the north. Well, we got a lot to the north. I mean, their whole enemy team is to the north, but you know, we got a little bit of a chat going on here too, so that's always good. Friant is leading the charge. Apparently, Friant thinks she's a destroyer. That's alright. So, Svietlana, can't tell if moving real hard and heavy. We'll go ahead and throw some rounds over just to see what happens. Not moving as fast as I thought it would. Not moving really at all. But, alright, so not a whole lot going on at least the first part of this match. We're sitting here trying to really block off any approach that they might have to come to our cap, and we're going to kind of sit here and play with this island for just a little bit. But you can see here the range is a little limiting. However, it's not that limiting. You can make work with the guns that you've got. And at this tier, look at 11.3 kilometers gets you pretty much the entire match, the map, with the exception of just a few spots. Not really a huge issue there. Okay, so we got ourselves a Clemson. Looks like he's going to beach himself. Disappears off. Alright, well, okay, now we'll refocus our attention on Isakaze. We do have 5k torps, so we're going to launch a set of torpedoes there to try and see if maybe we can't get lucky with the Isakaze. And making a little bit of a mistake here. I'll see if you guys can catch it or not. Usually what happens when a destroyer decides that they are going to be... Ooh, that looks like that was going to hurt. 5 normal pens and a fire. Generally speaking, when a destroyer goes broadside to you for a very long time, what are they doing? Oh yeah. Well, look at the roughly... Oh my, you can see the indicator already. Well, Shazbot. I thought maybe he was going to eat them all. This is a fair and equitable trade. Although I think he was hoping that he'd get away from that. Unfortunately, I blocked him there. Kind of used him a little bit as a meat shield not to end up dead. So, Fair and equitable. And, oops. And just in case he, needed a little bit more damage thrown on top of that, we went ahead and accidentally shot him in the superstructure. Now backing away a little bit more, we're going to focus the Svietlana down. You know, at this range, the 130mm guns probably aren't going to have enough penetration with AP to get through the armor belt of Svietlana, so we're not even going to bother. If it was a ship with a lightly armored side, like, say, well, I don't know, Phoenix or Omaha, I could see a little bit different story being made there. Okay, we're going to stop shooting at the Svietlana. Those torpedoes are looking good. No reason to try and kill steal here. We're going to have a South Carolina in range here fairly soon, so we will just go ahead and we will do that. A quick little self-promotion there of the YouTube channel. But going back to this, the South Carolina, we've got ourselves a pretty good opportunity here to burn down the South Carolina. And you can see, team-wise, man, the team's starting to fall apart a little bit, but we're doing not too bad. 3 shell hits, that pen equals 1881 damage. That's not too shabby. I wonder if that year is significant in Russia for something. That would make a lot of sense, wouldn't it? Anyway, we've got this island here, which is doing a fairly good job of blocking line of sight from the South Carolina. South Carolina is eating torpedoes currently, and looks like you're going to eat a third. Yep. Okay, so that South Carolina's dead. Really haven't done much here, but you can kind of see one of my major complaints about playing these long-range HE spamming ships with low alpha, these damage over time ships. They really do struggle to convert damage into kills. And so far, we've done 18,748 damage, which is probably the server average damage for Svietlana. However, we've not converted that into a single enemy sink. So that is mildly concerning. But we'll just keep working our way up back towards the enemy here. We've got plenty of speed to work with. We've got a Kawachi back here whom should probably be helping us a little bit better. Kawachi is not a ship to sit back and snipe in spite of what the Japanese Navy line is like later on in life. Okay, we've got another fire there. That's our second fire of the match. For having 10% fire chance, it seems pretty low. Oh well. Alright, so maybe this time we'll actually get a kill. He's only got 3,700 hit points. He's repairing. This Wyoming is here. Ooh, that looks like a good salvo. Yeah, there's 2,300 damage. 6 shell pens. And down he goes. Wheel. Alright, on to the next ship, I guess. We'll just keep going until we finally get some kills here. 23,000 damage. Clemson in range. Clemson turning away. Still managed to get 3 shell hits and a fire started there. Derped his engine a little bit there. That made him... he didn't burn a repair. He's smoking up. Must not have last stand on his destroyer. I would highly recommend that if you're a destroyer player, to have last stand. Okay, so now we've got Kaiser in the middle. So we'll focus our attention on him and see if we can't get him out of this fight. One of the downsides to the ship is to bring all those guns to bear on one side. You really do have to expose quite a bit of your broadside there. But, when you have moments like this where nobody's really focusing you as far as damage is concerned, you can kind of get away with it. One thing I did notice... Ooh, excuse me. One thing I did notice when I was playing this match is those guys there to the east. Now, that Miyogi, STW member, seal clubbing with the Yamamoto captain. Anyway, I noticed that they were there, and so I started to try and turn around to try and loop back around this island that's right here with me. This Kaiser is pretty bent on sinking this Wyoming here, so if I can get rid of any damage that they might potentially do to me by angling away, that's going to be a good thing. We do have a fifth fire now. Okay, so Kaiser is on fire. We're just shooting, looking to see if maybe I could get torpedoes off, but unfortunately, the Wyoming's presence there, I wasn't sure if he was going to quite make it out of this engagement. You just never know with these things. The Miyogi here, if the Miyogi got a good salvo off on this Kaiser, she would do quite a lot of damage. Not afraid to cause a little bit of damage to this Myogi, since the Myogi is causing me to move further away than I would like to move. I especially would love to launch torpedoes. So we're gonna slam on our brakes to try and let this Myogi go ahead of us, because we're obviously not gonna be able to cut the pie here. In fact, I thought maybe, just maybe, I'd be able to launch him, and then I realized, no, not gonna happen. So, boop! We booped the Myogi once again. Oh, there's a Variag on the other team. I didn't see that. So we're going to slam on our brakes here. We're going to launch some torpedoes. Probably scare the crap out of that Myogi, at least initially. Down goes the Myogi, angling. It's overpowered. Meanwhile, we're going to accelerate. Oh, we got ourselves another fire on the Kaiser. So he is burning. He's also turning away. I know he can't see those torpedoes, so who knows what he's trying to do. He must have found himself a much more juicy target. Ooh, 5K, I don't know. We're sailing away from him, so there's a little bit of a fudge factor here. Looks like we're going to get a torpedo, though. God, if they keep going. There's a torpedo, 5,200 damage. We got our torpedo hit to work with here. And not able to get the flood on that, unfortunately. So we need to fire again. Maybe we can get a fire on him. Island blocking our advance there. We need to start heading back and start delaying. I mean, this match is basically over, so at this point, you know, we're not doing enough in the way of damage. Ooh, hello, Clemson. We're not doing enough in the way of damage to take them out fast enough to win this. I mean, with 3 of us left, we would have to basically coordinate in ways that I don't think are actually possible to coordinate in a match like this. Ooh, nearly dead Clemson. That's the second nearly dead Clemson to expose himself to me. Very lewd, but... oh, come on, give me the kill. Gosh dang it. That's really frustrating. Alright, well... whoop, there he is again. What are you doing, Clemson? You should be in smoke if you're gonna fire. Oh, the one I thought maybe it was gonna get him. Nope. Alright, so we're gonna turn here. Variag... oh, down he goes. Okay, so we got one set of torpedoes. We launched it shallow. We launched one set far if we can. We're going to try and get around to use our other set of torpedoes to see if maybe we can take out this Variag. Got another fire, so we're working our way up. We're actually getting some decent damage output now, finally. We did finally get 2 kills, however, they were more or less kill secures. Admittedly, one of those I had done a fairly decent chunk of damage to. So, oh, good torpedo hits on the Variag. Got 3 a full-on 3 torpedo hits with that. Trying to get the Isakaze, but the game's, you know, silly aiming system not working in my favor. 168 hit points. We got a couple shells out that we can launch, and okay, we're dead. So that's the end of us, and we managed to finish off the Variag with a torpedo. So we got to see a little bit of torpedo play here. 3 kills, you know, we're 87,000 damage in a tier 4 cruiser. That's not bad at all. Finishing it up with 87,463. This match is basically over. This Kawachi is basically dead. Wasn't able to finish off that Kaiser, unfortunately. Oh, man. Not a bad match overall. And Svietlana, you got to see a little bit of how Svietlana plays. It's best played in those mid to long ranges, constantly starting fires. We got 8 of them this match, for crying out loud. Top of the team with 935 base XP. That would have put me a second on the enemy team. We tanked 628,533 potential damage there. That's not too shabby either for a tier 4 cruiser. You can see how WASD is an extremely important aspect to the ship, as well as staying at those longer ranges unless you can work an island to move you close enough to use your torpedoes. Anyway, I'm your Peacekeeper. I hope this helped you guys out. Like, comment, subscribe if you haven't already, and thank you for watching.